Bruce Lee is a symbol of speed, agility, precision. He is a legendary figure, a martial arts icon, charismatic, magnetic personality, athleticism and formidable fighter. His legacy continues to inspire and motivate human race from all walk of life under the sun. He is a legend, who will never die. Even now, decades on, tremendous controversy surrounds the death of Bruce Lee. In much the same way as Princess Diana's shocking death led to many baseless conspiracy theories and was the Queen who ordered her killed, or MI6, or the CIA, so too did Lee's untimely passing. What's known for sure is that, 2 months before his death, Bruce Lee was suddenly hospitalized. This occurred in May 1973 when Lee collapsed while carrying out post-production work on Enter the Dragon. Debilitated by seizures and headaches, he was rushed to Hong Kong Baptist Hospital in Kowloon Tong, diagnosed with cerebral edema, caused when fluid builds up around the brain, resulting in increased pressure. Doctors stabilized Lee's condition quickly with mannitol. After a brief hospital stay, he left and all was deemed well. Although Lee complained of the occasional headache after being discharged, he maintained his usual strict diet and intense fitness regime. However, the conditions that afflicted Lee in May struck him again on the day of his death, July 20, 1973. On the day of Bruce Lee's death, he and producer Raymond Chia drove to the house of Betty Ting Pei, where Lee spent some hours alone with Pei and used marijuana. Lee acted out some scenes from an upcoming movie and then, after drinking some water around 7:30 p.m., experienced headache and dizziness. Pei gave Lee an Equagesic pill and Lee went to a bedroom to rest. The paper says, Equagesic is a combination of aspirin and meprobamate. Meprobamate is an anti-anxiety medicine marketed under the brand names Meltown and Equanil. 2 hours later, Pei found Lee unconscious. According to the paper, a doctor who was summoned tried CPR unsuccessfully, and Lee was sent to a nearby hospital where he was pronounced dead. Incidentally, a July 1973 report in The Times said Pei initially categorically denied Lee was found at her apartment, while sources at the ambulance company swore they had picked up the actor at her place. Time appears to have resolved that disconnect. Lee's death was officially ruled the result of cerebral edema, a swelling of the brain. While a normal human brain is about 3 pounds, Lee's was reportedly closer to 3.5 pounds. The paper's authors offer their theory about what caused the swelling. We hypothesize that Bruce Lee died from a specific form of kidney dysfunction, the inability to excrete enough water to maintain water homeostasis. This may lead to hyponatremia, cerebral edema, and death within hours if excess water intake is not matched by water excretion and urine, which is in line with the timeline of Lee's demise. Hyponatremia is a below normal concentration of the electrolyte sodium in the blood. The authors note that Lee did not appear to have consumed enough water that day, 6 to 8 liters, to trigger hyponatremia in a normal person, but cited evidence gleaned from various books and publications to suggest he was predisposed to the condition based on certain behaviors. In other words, the paper said, Lee had done a lot of things that messed with the normal water balancing mechanisms in his body, including high chronic water intake and going on a juice diet, that set him up to be more sensitive to hyponatremia, in which the body holds on to too much water, causing symptoms including nausea, headache, cramping, confusion, fatigue, seizures and in severe cases coma from rapid brain swelling, which can result in death. The fact that we are 60% water does not protect us from the potentially lethal consequences of drinking water at a faster rate than our kidneys can excrete excess water, the paper's authors conclude. Ironically, Lee made famous the quote, "Be water my friend," but excess water appears to have ultimately killed him. Lee's cause of death has long been a source of speculation and point of contention, given the mythology that has grown around the much-loved martial arts star. Shannon Lee, daughter of Bruce Lee and president of the Bruce Lee Foundation, a 1998 Los Angeles Times story marking the 25th anniversary of Lee's death brought a strong written rebuttal from his widow, Linda Lee Cadwell. The story went a bit further than the autopsy had, stating, "The date was July 20, 1973. The cause of death, cerebral edema, a swelling of the brain brought on after Lee had taken too much aspirin. It also mentioned that toward the end of his life, Lee had suffered several public blows to his heroic image. For one thing, he had developed a serious cannabis addiction, the story stated. For another, he was having an extramarital affair. Although Lee was wed to his American college sweetheart, Linda Emery, who raised his two children, Brandon and Shannon, he died in the bed of Taiwanese actress Betty Ting Pei. Cadwell, in her letter to The Times, said the story sank to the depths of tabloid journalism in sensationalizing the life and death of an extraordinarily gifted human being. She decried the writer's assumption that Lee used a lot of weed and stuck with Lee's official cause of death, without going into every detail. Let me rebut for those who wish to know the truth. Bruce died from cerebral edema caused by hypersensitivity to an ingredient in a prescription medication called Equagesic, Cadwell wrote. This determination was made after an exhaustive, 9-day coroner's inquest during which the testimony of forensic pathologists from all over the world, who had studied every tissue in Bruce's body, was heard. She also took issue with the notion that Lee was having an affair. The authors of the new paper say only that Pei was thought to be Lee's mistress. Lee was just 32 when he died suddenly on July 20, 1973. His breakthrough, Enter the Dragon, pictured, was released several weeks after his death. Game of Death. The film he was working on was released 6 years later using a look-alike for certain scenes. The reporter jumps to the hasty conclusion that because Bruce lay down with a headache at the home of an actress, and subsequently died from the prescription medication she gave him, he was therefore having an extramarital affair. These types of statements, reported as fact, are purely speculative hearsay, the product of a 25-year rumor mill kept alive by the gossip of people who were never there, including your reporter and others quoted in the article. Cadwell wrote in her scathing missive, I have seen and heard every juicy bit of malicious rumor about the life and death of Bruce Lee over the years, but I could not stand by and let this newspaper that used to have standards of integrity and decency stoop to the level of journalistic trash talk. Lee was not a perfect person, Cadwell said, only one that did more good than harm in his short time on this earth. He faced many obstacles in his life, overcoming racist attitudes, surviving dire economic circumstances, surmounting physical injuries, and in so doing distinguished himself as someone to be rightfully admired and emulated. It is rightly said that the legend never dies. Bruce Lee would live in the hearts of people. Legend's greatness never fades.